So over the course of 2 years, we have had some riveting and mind-blowing discussions, whether on our panels or in fireside chats. Observing the events, I've often witnessed our attendees frantically writing these notes of some of the key sound bites that our speakers are sharing with them. With that said, when I had to make a decision on the topics for the panel discussions for our Advertising Week event, there was no doubt in my mind that diversity had to top the list, as it has been, thus far, the #1 requested panel by our female attendees. Last year, when we were hosted by Jeff Weiner and LinkedIn, I had organized a panel on women in tech. Our moderator was actually Jessie Draper, who will be a panelist today, which received rave reviews for being insightful, engaging, emotional, awareness building, candid, and honest. It touched on issues that are prevalent but difficult to discuss in a typical workplace setting. Bonin and I have often looked at brand new events as the AA for career growth, and this was no exception. Our events are an opportunity to open up, share, to challenge thought, and gain understanding. Brand new events not only serves as a platform for those to ask questions and gain answers in an open and safe environment, but for us to truly understand the issues that concern next generation leaders so that we can educate, encourage, and problem solve. I could not have done this event today, where we discuss the importance of investing in talent, without including a conversation and open dialogue on the topic of diversity. By continuously talking about the challenges of women in the workforce, we are pushing the needle just a bit more in hopes of creating a level of equality and respect that is long overdue. We have come a long way in the United States, but we have a long way to go. I am proud to announce our diversity panel with incredibly accomplished women in their own right. And I'm thrilled that they are able to join us today, and honored that they are willing to share their time with us and share their own personal stories. So without further ado, I'm going to call up our panelists and our fabulous moderator. Joining us today, we have Milena Berry, co-founder and CEO of PowerToFly. If you guys want to, okay, I'm going to start with you. Shelley Zalis. All right, let's give a hand for Shelley Zalis, who is the CEO of the Female Quotient and Creator of the Girls Lounge. We have Jessie Draper sitting next to her, who is a founding partner of Halogen Ventures and creator of the Valley Girl. We have Jacqueline Corbelli, founder, chairman, and CEO of BrightLine Partners. Alexandra Cavoulacos, did I say that right?
Nope, that's okay.
Beautiful, okay, awesome, I love it. Co-founder and COO of the Muse, and Milena Berry, as I mentioned earlier, co-founder, CEO of PowerToFly. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be an awesome panel. Let's hit it. Go for it.
Yay.
Thank you.
Hey.
I mean, you can already tell this is going to be a conversation and not a panel, because when you put so many women together, we just love to share our thinking, and we just kind of speak our mind whenever we feel like it. And of course, with the amplification effect, have you heard about this one? It's what they're doing in the White House right now. So when a woman says something wonderful, then another woman says, wow, Shelley, that was such a good idea, so that we support each other. And it was just clear, even just standing in the wings over there, that we were already, forming this amazing relationship and doing deals with one another, and I can't wait to follow up. And I think one of the most important things, especially being here today at Brand New, and we're all so thrilled to be here, is, for me personally, education is not in a textbook. It really is about, sharing, caring, and experiencing and learning from each other, and giving back. So it really is ask questions, we will respond, and especially I know each and every one of us, it's ask anything, and I think we will, share that journey. So I'd like to get right into it, and really, let's start with you, Jessie.
Okay.
Were you always an entrepreneur? I mean, did you start in the corporate world and fall out and start doing?
I think I had a normal journey. Like right out of college, I worked at a radio station. I did dishes for producers. I did all sorts of things. Worked at a doggy daycare, and then I kind of got into entertainment, and I created a show called The Valley Girl Show, where we interview CEOs and entrepreneurs in a really kind of lighthearted, approachable way. And what I learned with that, I started it about 8 years ago, is there were not enough women in technology. And I grew up in a very technology-oriented family. My dad's an investor, my grandfather's an investor. And so I made this promise to myself that I wanted to interview 50% women. It's gotten so much easier in the last few years. And I also want to see more female CEOs in my lifetime. So the two ways I'm helping with that is with my show, where I interview 50% women, and then I also run a venture fund for female-founded consumer technologies. And so I think funding and getting more media exposure for women is how we're going to change those numbers. Sorry,
So we're going to come back to that. I mean,
my
a Valley
whole
Girl
life story.
for me, I mean, I grew up literally in the Valley in Los Angeles, and now it's like, oh my God, like they used to make fun of us as a Valley Girl. So I'm glad that the Valley Girl now has a new meaning. That's pretty wonderful. We're going to get back to why you are investing in women and how that makes a difference. Jackie, let's go to you. Tell us what you're all about, what your business is all about, how you got there, and did you come from the traditional corporate world?
I mean, I actually did come from the traditional corporate world and wasn't that comfortable there, frankly. I left business school at Columbia and started in banking, and the big objective was to pay off my student loans, actually. And I went into the management training program, took that whole traditional route, made my first move onto the lending side, and sat back very shortly after and said, I'm not feeling it, I don't like my product. It didn't jazz me to sell money. So I started thinking about how I was going to make my way toward, I didn't know it at the time, but some form of consulting, change management, right? And I quickly left the banking world and fell into such an amazing opportunity with my co-partner, turned into my co-partner, and gave me my first opportunity to be exposed to what does it feel like when you're involved with something banking, but to be in a position where you can actually affect outcomes, which I didn't feel the opportunity to do in that first work experience. And I spent 12 years redesigning, restructuring banks as an outsider, and I realized that the power really came from, especially in the financial industry, I was given an opportunity so many people, let alone women, aren't able to do, which was to sort of impact day-to-day decisions at a very high level in a bank. And, that can get very addicting. And that's how I realized that I was where I was supposed to be, not trying to emulate what women were doing back then to be successful in a bank, which was to sort of cut my hair into the page boy, wear the men's looking business suits, and be tough all the time. I just didn't fit that mold. And go my own way. And once you get a taste of that and realize that you can build skill and put skill to use and create value, it was really hard for me to go back, and that was really how I finally transitioned into building my own company. And you heard a little bit about it before. My co-founder, Rob Axman, is here, and he talked a little bit about what we do at BrightLine. But I do enjoy speaking with women who have objectives that are both in the corporate setting and outside the corporate setting, because I sort of feel like I understand both. And when I spent 15 years advising banks, I was able to watch and support women inside that environment. And so, talking a little too much, but I can't stop before I say that, that this woman is incredible, Shelley.
So true.
What she does for women. And I mean, I ran into her in the ladies' room, which is perfect, right? And and told her, it's palpable. It's palpable, the kind of energy that the Girls Lounge has built, and it's things like we're doing right now, sharing experiences and maybe tips, but it's in general and broadly what she's done to empower women, period. So I just want to thank you for that.
If you don't think you get a hug for that, I mean, there's nothing better than that. Thank you. That was
pleasure.
really very nice. By the way, my dress makes a lot of noise.
I love that dress.
There's a new theory that emerged at the Olympics called the Shine Theory, and I think it's just a really important one, and you just did that, by the way, and that meant the world to me, which is when women support other women, when we help women rise, we all shine. And we're going to talk about the guys too, because you are very important in this equation, and I want to get to that. But thank you for that. And I think that, we talk about mentorship. Mentorship is not about age. It is not about the old ladies that push wisdom down. It is about wisdom that we share all around, up, down, and all around. And I think that that's really important. And I think that's what we want to try to do today. And you talked about addiction. My addiction is M&Ms. So I like that yours is power. I think I'm going to switch to that. It'll be a lot less fattening. I'm going to be addicted to power. I like that very much. Okay, I'm going to say this because I'm proud that I actually think I can do this. Alexandra Cavoulacos.
Correct.
Wow, very nice.
COO and Founder of the Muse. So let me hear a little bit about where you've been. Were you corporate that went into, the entrepreneurial world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had always started things throughout my life, but after college, I went and worked at McKinsey & Company, a management consulting firm, which is where I actually met my co-founder. And we had very different paths. I arrived and found that it was actually a culture that worked for me. It energized me. I had good and bad days, good and bad managers, good and bad clients like everyone else, but the way that I thought and the way that I worked fit in with the company culture there. And I rose very quickly. I got a lot of opportunity. I found my people within it. I ended up doing about 80% growth strategy in the financial services world coming out of the downturn. So it was a lot of big questions, we make $4 billion here, we'd like to make $5 billion within 2 years. You have 4 weeks sort of questions. Really fun, really challenging.
Can you do that for me? Make $5 billion?
In fact, I don't make the money. I figure out how to make the money. Now, at the time, it was coming straight out of college and learning so much, I was just really could see myself doing that. And my co-founder, Catherine, within a month knew that she was not cut out to be a career consultant, that she'd learn a lot in the two-year program that we had signed up for, but that was not going to be her path. And we talked a lot about company culture and about how much that makes the difference in how energized you are in your performance at the end of the day. And she spent a lot of time thinking about what she wanted to do if it wasn't consulting. And so we joke it's fantasy job searching, because she knew she had 2 years of this program. But a lot of that inspired the Muse, our company, which we help over 50 million people a year figure out what to do with their lives and how to get there. It's a career site, themuse.com, and we do everything from looking inside of companies to show their company culture. You see photos and videos of people, to giving people advice and some of the, if you will, unwritten rules of business that we were actually taught at McKinsey, but most people are not. And it's a huge disadvantage, I'd say, particularly for women, for people of color, for first generation, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, people who are not underrepresented in the business world. They're the ones who don't have the model of what these rules are that you get if, my father was a consultant. I knew exactly what I was going into. I had a competitive advantage going into that world that I did not realize until afterwards. So a lot of our articles, a lot of our content is to help bridge that gap and democratize access to information for people.
Wow. So, you said you like making things.
Yeah.
I like breaking things. And so I'm like, wow, okay, that's cool. You make them and I break them because I just think the rules suck. And I think that they don't make any sense. And, Katharine Hepburn says, and I really love that, she says, if you don't break any rules, you don't have any fun. Yeah. So I think that's true. I also think you have to know what the rules are to choose which ones to break. And that's often what happens in business, is you have people who don't realize they're just not playing by the rules, and therefore they're not getting promoted because
everyone else is asking for a promotion, they think you just wait to get promoted, or whatever those rules are. I think it's so fascinating, but then breaking them is just as fun, I agree.
Yeah, we're going to get to asking. We have a lot of things to talk about and not so much time, so we're going to get to that. So let's get to Milena. Milena.
Yeah.
And Milena, co-founder and CEO of PowerToFly. What's your story? Where have you been and where are you now?
So I was born in communist Bulgaria, so we kind of have a funny thing going on with us co-founders. She grew up on the Upper West Side and I grew up in communist Bulgaria, but I got here in 2001 to go to NYU at a program called ITP, which is a program at the intersection of arts and technology, and is really kind of focused on emerging technology and what's next. And in a way, a lot of the people from, the New York City startup scene start from there. John Peretti was a lecturer there. Dennis Crowley started his company there. It was a lot of fun. And that program was founded by a woman named Brett Burns. And she was dubbed by many the mother of Silicon Alley. She's really awesome. And she really had the vision in the late 70s that there can be a program which has, 50-50 male and female ratio. The graduate program is the only one in the country that's maintained this for 35 years of its existence. And at the same time, she had this vision of IDP being a melting pot of different cultures around the world. So right after graduation, I probably started from the bottom layer of the tech career you can have. I was a manual QA tester, literally. And within a couple of years, changed a couple of jobs, and eventually landed the job of being a CTO at Avaz.org. Where I stayed on for 7 years. It was really awesome on month 13 when I realized I had held a job for more than 13 months. But I had really found my calling. It was a nonprofit, and it's very much, I don't know, how many of you know Avaz.org? It's kind of like Move On. How many know Move On? Mm-hmm. More, right? So like Move On, but global, and really working on multi-issues. And so it was really amazing way for me to combine my global outlook and global career with my passion for changing the world, with building a technology team on 6 continents and having 3 babies in 5 years.
Yay.
So my story actually is a story of hope, a woman in tech who didn't fall out of the workforce, and I feel very fortunate to be one of those, and that's what really inspired me to start PowerToFly, is I wanted this present, not this future, this present for the millions of women around the world who are there and are present, and that's why I co-founded PowerToFly. It's a network which finds the women. We started with the women in tech, but we've expanded across multiple verticals, and we basically help connect women to jobs at companies that value diversity and inclusion. And so we're solving a business problem, but we're also creating a movement with the women. That's my story.
So I want to go now to, why are we in this situation? Like, why do you think we have to have so many conversations about women? And I don't know about you guys, but it's getting a little boring. It's like, what's going on with this? Why are we at this time right now, more than ever before, that every conversation is, how do we, advance women, in the workplace? How do we create cultures of change? Why is this happening right now? Is technology now just showing us what the problems are, or, these legacy issues? Why is this more important than ever before?
I personally think, there's so many elements. I could take that question so many ways, but I personally think it's a balance issue. I think women and men are realizing, oh my God, can you have it all? I want it all. I can't have it all. It's like a balance thing where, you're realizing we were already busy, women were already working, but now it's like social media and email, and it's like people are like, didn't you get my Facebook invite? No, I didn't. Like, I didn't
respond to mine.
Shoot. I'm like, email me, or like, there's too many communication tools, and you feel like you could be spending all your time just checking your inbox in every place. So people have gotten infinitely busier and busier and busier. So I think it's a question of balance. That's why we're here. We're having all these conversations to change it so that we're all hopefully happier.
Yeah, so I think there's also a generational shift, and within one generation, we went from, when you think about education, women being a minority to being just over half of people graduating from schools, from college, and a lot of different majors. And I think there was a certain experience that many people went through, which was, I went to school, and when I worked hard, I'm getting nods already. I worked hard, I got good grades, I felt like my gender was not at all a part of it, and then they enter the working world, and within 2 years, they have that aha moment that's like, it's not the same as school. I don't just get good grades.
What was that aha moment, though? What was it that you said is not the same as school? What did you experience?
The interesting thing for me was I remember getting recruited for McKinsey. They did a McKinsey women's event, and I was like, I don't understand why they're doing this women's, I was angry. I was like, why are they doing this women's event? And then once I joined, I was like, oh, it's not for us on campus. It's for us once we get there. And it depends on the industry you're in. But I worked for financial services firms. Almost all of my clients were men. I was a 21-year-old woman who had to very quickly find a way to be respected, and what I did was different than what I could do was different from what my male counterparts could do. And at the analyst level,
what could you do differently than your male counterparts?
So, client wants to get whiskey at 10 p.m. at the hotel because we're done with the meeting and you want to touch base. You don't get invited when you're the 21-year-old woman because people know that's not appropriate. But your counterpart might have a different experience. The male 21-year-old might be able to do that and forge a different personal relationship with a client. And some of it, I think, is also style. I mean, there were so many, both women and men, who had styles that didn't fit my style. And I actually remember distinctly the first time I was maybe my third or fourth female manager at McKinsey. There's still a lot of women who are there, but the third or fourth female manager at McKinsey I realized I could do this the way she does, and it would feel authentic to me. And there was this sort of click moment, and I think having more, part of it is role models and pipelines and things like that. But I do think one of the biggest differences is that in school, you get rewarded for hard work, and that's actually not how the business world operates. Hard work is only a part of what gets you rewarded, and there's all these other things. And in many cases, men have figured that out long ago, but women just worked hard in school.
I love that.
I mean,
go ahead. Jump in.
I have to say that that last thing, I agree with everything you said, everything you said. But that last thing you said, I think, was part of what pushed me out of the corporate world as well, or kept me out once I got out. I think there was a little bit of intuition involved in terms of, the way it worked inside banking. So when I mentioned that they put me into a lending area, and I didn't like my product, they didn't put me into corporate lending, which was where the men went, and the money.
Yeah.
But they put me into the private banking world. Your credit skills are really strong. You've been on the special loans, which meant bad loans, restructuring for a while. You really get credit. We want to put you on the lending side. Great. We're going to put you in private banking. It was this idea that you couldn't actually deliver on a certain level and get the same opportunities. And I just thought, and I was going to say this before, is like, I'm clearly the oldest person on this panel. And when you ask that question about why now, why are we doing this, for me, it was, you said generational, and I thought, that's it right there. For me, it's generational. So when I got out of school, I didn't even expect that it was going to be the same for women as men. And when I got into the corporate setting, I didn't feel like a sellout for just trying to find my place and my way, because I just thought that's the way it's going to be, and I'll figure it out. But I did think by the time I reached this age that it would not be that
35?
way. Exactly. I just I didn't think that it would be the same, right? And I think a lot of us at my age, a little older than that, feel that way. It's like, you know what? It's not good enough, right? And in my generation, so many women were just not good to each other, right? Like women who achieved in the corporate setting, they held other women down because they felt threatened by that,
There was only room for one.
Exactly, there was only room for one, and so it was about survival. And so I think that was actually a part of what we all have to own right now, and why what we're doing now is so critical. And we all feel like we want to give back and not let our daughters experience the same things. That's from my perspective.
I really think we got to keep talking until we feel that we've gotten somewhere.
Yeah.
And we haven't yet. And actually, we should be careful not to get tired of talking about it and then move on to the next topic that's fashionable, because I feel like finally there is some traction, right? All of these talks about teaching women how to code. There's so many schools focused on it. I really feel that, people are really kind of equalizing the pipeline as well. But they also, companies can't talk too much about, not having a pipeline. Also, that we have to stop talking about like there's a problem, and actually offer a solution, right? I think people and companies have to get creative. What happens? Why? It's really on the company side. I think the women have changed and companies haven't. And we got to think largely about, well, how are we changing the nature of work to address this new, more modern audience that expects equality, and is really, really into it. And I think the companies are going to have to adjust and have to say, okay, there is no pipeline problem, but we're pushing the women out. What are we doing to push the women out? Perhaps some flexibility around the childbearing years would be nice. Perhaps everybody would like flexibility, and they would find better productivity anyway overall, right? There's all these, perhaps we can invest money in more in family-friendly activities and women-friendly activities than beer, ping pong, and 3D goggles, guys sitting around a room. I mean, so I think there's a ton we can do, and we shouldn't stop doing it until we have made a difference. We're only 56 years after women were allowed to vote, I think, if I have my math right. Yeah. So that's not a long time, like if you think in humanity of like being a super different type of ladder completely on the society to where we are today. So we've made a lot of progress, but we've got to keep working on it.
2020 is the 100-year anniversary of women's right to vote.
100?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
The one thing, if I can add one more thing that I hope for the conversation and how it evolves is that we'll stop equating diversity with gender. I think the conversations I've had within companies that are much more relevant end up being around all diversity and inclusion, and that includes race, that includes socioeconomic background, it includes marital status, includes so many different things. And I think it benefits everyone when a company becomes more welcoming and inclusive of people who are not currently the majority. And those efforts together, I think, will actually drive more change.
So I think, one of the things that Jackie and I need to do is go back 30-something years and look at our, if we're paid 79 cents on the dollar, I think we're owed a lot of money. I think it'll be very interesting to see, because I really never thought about it being a gender issue, rising the ranks. I always knew I thought differently, but I didn't know that, there was a gender issue. But I think, Milena, you said it right, that it isn't, we have to stop admiring the problem. We know it's an issue, and we have to start activating solutions for change. So I think from all of your experience, can you give me like some examples? Like, I'm always so curious, and I love looking for best in class, and I don't think it comes from one company. There's a little tip from this one and from this one, and so I always talk about, Mark Benioff from Salesforce with the one-button push of closing the wage gap. Push the button, figure out, technology is our best friend today, figure out where the inequality is, fix the problem. It cost them $3 million. Ouch, pinch, fix it, and move forward, and, adjust that one. That's a great story that I love, of a solution that, can make tangible differences. What are you hearing? What are things that you've heard about in companies today that are just a next step change?
I'm happy to talk about what we do. So I believe in what I call sort of being a whole human as an approach to company culture. And so that means, you have your personal life and your work life, and those things don't actually stop at the door when you walk in. So some of the things we do at the Muse include, we have both paid parental leave, both for primary and non-primary caregivers, and we have a bring your baby to work policy for people returning from parental leave. So we just had actually our first graduate of that program, who's just over 6 months now. But the program lets you bring your child to work 3 days a week and work from home the other 2 days a week, from about 3 months when you come back from maternity leave, 3 or 4, to when they're 6 months or crawling, whichever is first. And we sort of modeled it and looked at other companies, and it was such a huge benefit.
Do men and women bring their children?
So far, we've only had a woman bring a child to work. It's only been in place for, I guess, about 6 months now. We have actually 2 men who will have second children sometime in the next 4 months, so it'll be interesting to see if they take advantage of it. But what was amazing for us is not only the impact on the mother being able to come back, transition in a different way, have more time, but the impact on the office. Like, the entire company, it was like, people talk about it takes a village. I would literally be in a meeting and I'd be the one holding the baby because her mom would be typing. Or I'd see like our video editor with the baby sitting on his desk because there's a little like seat thing, and he was like just editing and would just like give her baba. You know, like, it was just one of those things where just everyone stepped up, and it was both of I think it brought us closer together, but also helped people understand. A lot of people don't have children. A lot of people in tech are on the younger side, what that transition feels like. We have flexible schedules as well, but for us it's been about thinking holistically about the person, and I think that's worked really well.
Well, we are a distributed company, so I think in diversity factors, we're probably the most diverse you get out there. Like we have people not only, you know, from different genders, obviously, and our tech team is 95% female. So when people tell me that there can't be more than 10 or 15 engineers on their team be women, I say, no, well, look at us, you know. But, you know, we also have, you know, women from totally different cultures. One woman working from Saudi Arabia, one from Jordan. So, for example, they have, you know, Sunday afternoon. They work on Sunday, but they don't work on Fridays. And so you get to know like little things like that around the cultures that are super valuable. And I really feel the fact that we're a distributed remote company has really helped us achieve this and move faster and all that.
What about you, Jackie? Any good example?
I mean, I think it doesn't hurt to be, it helps a lot, I should say, to be a woman founder and CEO, and to have walked that path. And, you know, I'm learning a lot on this panel in terms of what best practices are and how they're being used. I'm really proud to say that over half the company is women. I'm not so proud to say that every one of our engineers is not, and we need to talk. I keep being told that they're just not out there to be hired. So, and you know, of course they must be.
They are.
And so I'm looking to change that. But you know, my CFO and head of HR is a woman. You know, and of course I am, and we do a lot of the. We bring a lot of the guidance, let's say, to the hiring decisions that are made for the company. And I think, you know, that's certainly not scalable beyond a certain point, but it's working for us right now.
I think, Jesse, for you, I want you to go to the female-owned businesses and play off of what Jackie said. Are women that run companies, do they perform differently than men performing companies? And is that why we need more
I think they're more emotionally in tune. Women, the data's coming back that women-led companies are doing better than most men-led companies right now, which is very, very exciting. I'm all in on women, so I'm hoping it goes well. I've done 17 consumer tech deals, and they're doing fantastic, and they all are very thoughtful about how they do take care of their own. And even for me personally, I think, you know, clearly a lot of this stigma exists around women having children. And I've been fundraising lately, and I had a baby about a year ago, and I felt like I had to kind of hide that from all of the people I was fundraising from. I have great male investors, female investors, but I had one of my current investors doing some due diligence on me, and they wanted me to meet with their banker, which is like normal protocol, and I kept trying to meet with her, and I had already rescheduled one meeting, and I didn't want to lose this next meeting, and it was one of those days where like my nanny called in sick because the baby had been sick and this whole thing. And I was like, oh my God, I can't lose this meeting. I have to close this investor. And I emailed her and I said, I'm so sorry. I really don't want to cancel on you, but my nanny called in sick. Can I bring my son? Or, you know, or can we, you know, should we reschedule? And she said, I'm pregnant with my second child. I'm coming over to your house and we'll do it there. And like, I honestly get like teary-eyed thinking about it because it was such a game-changing moment for me where I really had to I really had been hiding the fact that I had this young child. And she was, super pregnant, came in the door, was like, where is he? I can't wait to see him. I pitched her while my son, who, by the way, if you have boys, he is just crazy. Like, he is just tearing things apart. So he's just in the corner, like, making noise, tearing things apart. I'm pitching her. I have my PowerPoint deck out. She's asking me, my deal, like how I source a deal. She's asking me just, about, what my return rate's going to be. Like, it was the most hilarious thing, but I feel so much closer to her. And it also was this moment in my life recently where I was like, it's okay. Like, people have kids and men understand too. And, I think it's just about making it work. That was kind of loud.
They were agreeing with you.
Yeah, they were, yeah. See?
Like,
See what I mean? But I think it's okay, to be real. Like, everyone has, a lot going on in their lives. And so I think it's important to, not try to hide your kids or feel like you have to put on some front. It's about, making it all work and helping each other out, I think.
I mean, I was at a meeting recently with some very senior women at a banking company, and I think I might be older than Jackie, and I was having like one of those hot moments, and so I'm like this. I couldn't help myself. It was all 20 women at the table, and so I started going like this, and one woman says, "Oh, thank God you did that." And she starts going like this, and then the other lady, and we're all like this. So I ended up getting everybody fans, and it was just like such a perfect moment in life. Okay, but that's the other end of the spectrum from a little. Okay, but I think I'm going to break away, since I told you I break some rules, because I want to ask the guys in the audience, a question.
I love it.
What are you thinking about all these conversations? You're all sitting here, and I'm thinking, God, you poor guys, you're probably sitting through another conversation about female empowerment and, what our challenges are and how we're going to activate change. Are you feeling empowered by these conversations? Are you feeling like left out? Are you feeling like, oh my God, all these women are now going to get all these promotions, and where am I going to be in the equation? I just want to know the answer. So I just want to ask you guys, because I see that there's, probably 40% of men in this room.
Raise your hand.
They're all looking away right now.
Or we'll call on you.
Someone take the mic that's a guy and tell me what
Crickets.
your perspective is on all this.
Someone, yeah.
Come on.
Someone's got to have daughters or something.
Stand up. Yeah.
I actually work with mostly females, and I think that they're all awesome. So we're all really good at different things, and I hope to see more of an inclusive culture as we all grow. So,
do you see a difference between like masculine
I'm also
and
super
feminine?
scared right now.
I
can't say anything wrong.
Right?
Isn't it weird not being the majority and everyone expecting you to speak for a whole gender?
What's that?
Speaking for a whole gender, doesn't it feel like a huge weight on your shoulders right now?
Absolutely.
That's how most women feel
I mean,
in the room all the
I've
time.
going through high school and college, we've had these
doing a great
conversations
job.
all the time, and I don't know. It is like kind of weird. I've always been inclusive, and I think the communities that I've grown up in were really inclusive. So it's hard for me. It was hard for me to understand the problem, but I'm aware that it exists, and I would like to be a part of the change as well.
Wow, champion.
That's so awesome. It's so great.
Anyone else? That's
Some in the
bold,
back. Yeah.
brave, curious. Wait, you have to take the microphone because we're live. No pressure. Just saying.
I just wanted to add that my co-founder Gina just had a baby, and I wrote an article which I published yesterday at LinkedIn, in my LinkedIn account, saying you can have it all. And I'm the CEO and the co-founder of the company, and I basically said unequivocally that she can be, she's the COO, co-founder of the company. She can be a full-time mom and a full-time successful business executive. So I've actually gone out there, like on the record, just to basically say it's unacceptable to say you cannot have it all. You can have it all. It's not about quantity. It's about quality time. And I just put that stake in the ground to say, listen, if you come back in 3 months after maternity, whether you come into the office half a day, 1 day, 4 days, 5 days, I don't care, as long as you feel that you can contribute to the company and contribute to your family as well. And I think more companies need to follow suit.
What company do you work for?
Evolution. I was one of the mentors in one of the presentations earlier. But I'm
Okay,
just saying,
I'm coming to work for you.
literally, literally, the LinkedIn article is called "You Can Have It All." So when I heard you saying that, I was like, I want to send you the article.
Yeah,
Thank
I think you can have it all, but it is hard. Like it's very scheduled all.
Well, I don't think there is anything as having it all. It's having
Yeah.
it all your way.
Totally.
And,
Right.
and taking it in sound bites
And
at
you
different
need-
stages
you
of
need
life.
help, of course, right? Like I think like it's a myth saying that you can have it all and you expect to be some sort of superwoman,
Yeah.
doing it all on yourself and the cleaning and the total childcare
Yeah.
after school. We all have help to make it work,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And it's not a thing not to be ashamed of. you know?
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
No apologies. Okay, because this is the audience time, so I really want to.
Thank you so much for your presentations. My name is Vandana. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd like to ask you to share some examples where you felt that you've been effectively using women's leadership to break gender stereotypes to get to that next level of power and inspiring other women.
Can I start, even though I'm the moderator?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to start, even though this is out of character, but what the hell. I think that there's masculine and feminine characteristics of leadership, and men can have feminine characteristics, and women can have masculine. And I think masculine characteristics, and this is my friend John Gersma from the Athena Doctrine, one of the most inspiring books that has changed how I think considerably. That was a plug for John, but I mean that sincerely. And, masculine, aggressive, assertive, linear, analytic, all skills very necessary in business. Feminine, nurturing, collaborative, visual, emotive, nurturing, empathetic. Both skill sets necessary for doing well. And I say gender equality is not a female issue, it's a social and economic issue. And the best leaders, in my opinion, are collaborative, nurturing, and inspiring. Not motivating leaders, but inspiring leaders. And unfortunately, most caregivers today are women. And we are losing some of our best leaders to caregiving, which is the challenge. And so, we've been taught to be competitive in school, in business, and that's why women have not historically supported other women, because there's such a scarcity of jobs at the top. You got a survival of the fittest, as Darwin says, so you got to knock them off to survive. And I say that's really not true. The best teams, diversity is about mindset and skill set, is about collaboration. Yep. And when you are a collaborative leader, regardless of level, if you're a collaborative team, then you will be much more successful in business today. And I think we need to tap into that and really get rid of that myth that competition is better than collaboration. I think in today's day and age, it's all about collaboration.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
I think that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.